Yo, welcome to another edition of Trust the Process Podcast. Yours truly, Rob the People's Plug Martin, joined by always the Italian Stallion, the Reverend.
What's up? How's it going?
And Julius Maddox.
What is wrong?
Man,
You had too much coffee. Why did he say my full name?
Mr. Irregular Street.
Yeah, he didn't do his nickname.
Why did
I've been trying to work on it.
he said Julius Maddox?
You're giving me a complex.
Man, look, I'm telling you.
I tried to get y'all to do the intro.
He was a baseball announcer. Now
I'm telling you.
Julius Maddox.
Yeah, y'all can't do it.
Well, I did great one of the times.
No, you didn't.
Yes, man.
Nick, he really tried to
let the hate get on. Welcome back to another edition of Trust the Podcast, Trust the Process Podcast. Welcome to you live. You know, how can I even do it with you over ad-libbing?
Go.
No, I'm done. I'm done.
Try to do it.
We already did it, guys. Listen, all I know is friends are supposed to give you support.
Man, Mr. 1 in 7 billion,
not extort.
8 billion.
Yeah.
You know
Facts.
Mr. League of his own.
You ever think about that?
What's that?
You're the only one in the world.
Listen, I think about it often.
You're one.
Yeah.
How many people can say it? I wonder.
Man, not many. You know, it's a blessing, but God did.
All right,
Yeah.
DJ Khaled.
Every answer from here on out is God did.
Drew, you gotta get that on your shirt.
Yeah, I'm telling you, man.
Oh, that's it.
They ain't believe in us.
For sure. They didn't believe in us.
it.
Oh, that's it.
Hey,
That's the new motto right there.
He had a shirt on the other day when he went to go. He was in New York. I see a shirt with the apple on it.
Shit.
It said "Be different."
Who
It was
did?
tight. DJ Khaled.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was dope.
Yeah, y'all
but it wasn't the Apple logo. It was the whole Apple, and it said
Yeah.
"Be different."
Mm.
And I was like, man, that would be dope if we put it on there. Be irregular. You know what I'm saying? Just take just use that concept. So
Yeah,
what's up,
man.
How's the week been going?
Listen, I'm starting to rethink my ability to be able to hit the highway and drive long
So
stretches like I
after
did.
after you experience
Bro,
that
I'm
highway,
still, and this is not, but I'm
You drive straight
still
through?
on the way back. On the way down, we stopped.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, we drove straight through both ways.
Nick, you remember what before
13
he went,
hours.
He was like, oh yeah, it'll be all right. I'll
It's
always do
listen,
this.
what I didn't equate for is that Tampa humidity. Dog, when you open up the door,
It took something out of you.
listen, it's like, I don't know, it's like water traveling through the path of least resistance.
Especially when you're
Like,
used to that cold
as
air.
soon as you open it up, it's like the window when you open the door up, and you know where the edge of your door opens up the little crack.
Yeah.
It like seeps in and smacks you in the face.
I know you had that cold AC on the whole way.
Oh, I did. Listen, Tampa's humidity is no joke.
It ain't.
I'm not the guy, and this is what hit me. I'm like, have I made it to this point, or is it just the weather? The guy that carries around a sweat rag, a sweat towel. I was that guy that this week.
You hit a certain age where that sweat
Man,
rag,
look, I had that sweat rag everywhere I went because, like, I could walk 5 steps, and I mean, you're not just a little bit of sweat. I'm talking about your face is drenched.
Yeah.
Rob, you ain't wearing hoodies down there.
Yeah.
If you wear a hoodie in Tampa, you're a bold dude.
Hey, if is Tampa on the
It's on the Gulf.
Oh, so there is a beach there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You
I
go
just
to
think
the
that-
beach.
Huh?
You ain't go.
Business, man.
Wow.
You know what I mean? Like, all business,
Got to
bro.
get to the beach. Got to get in.
All business. Listen.
It was packed there. It looked like.
It was great. Great event. A lot of opportunities. We'll see how they play out. You know, man, I just couldn't get over how hot it was. It was crazy. But man, I just cut out. I don't know what happened.
I hear you.
Somebody's moving around.
I hear
Yeah, it
you.
was mine.
Somebody did it again.
It was mine.
Rob, you're messing it up.
My fault.
But mine's still messed up. Anyway, you know, so we had a good time. You know, it was a blessing. You know, I was at the Expo Convention Center. A guy came. Usually, you know, I probably took well over 1,000 pictures while I was there.
Right.
And a guy came up to me and didn't ask for a picture. He was like, "Hey, look, I want to pray with you."
Really?
Ooh,
In the middle of the expo,
powerful.
came up to me and prayed with me. It was pretty cool, really. People probably thought we were weirdos, but I'm okay with it. He said,
you can't say no to that, can you?
He said, "Can I pray with you?" And I said, "Absolutely." Well, I mean, we're in the middle of this powerlifting meet where there's people still standing in line to take pictures with me, right?
Yeah.
And he's like, "I want to pray with you." And I'm like, "Man, listen," I told him I was grateful. I'm like, "Do you realize out of all the expos I've been to and thousands of people that I've met and took pictures with, this is the first time someone was like, 'Hey, look, can I pray with you?' Instead of saying, 'Hey, can I get something from you?" You know what I mean?
Powerful, yeah.
Which is not bad because that's why I'm at these expos for people to take pictures. But
Right.
man, for the most part, like him just coming up to me, which it's not abnormal for me to pray with somebody in general. Like
You to pray with somebody.
I'm always,
For somebody to say,
feel like I'm
"Hey,
doing. Yeah, let me
I don't
pray
want
with
anything,
you.
I just want to pray.
Let
for
me
you."
pour into you.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And so it was different. It was a unique one, and I think there's more. Like seeds were planted. There's multiple things that's going to come out of it. What about you guys?
Yeah, there's a bunch
How
of
y'all's week been? Busy?
busy.
Man, that's usual.
My week's
Busy.
been good. Decluttered. It was like we talked about last week, discipline and decluttering. Man, I decluttered my room. 5 garbage bags worth of clothes.
Wow.
Man, I ain't ready to let go of mine.
And it was hard to let
5
go of.
garbage bags. Why?
Man, my wife came down there because she got some stuff in my closet. She was like, "You throw that?" She was like, "You get rid of that?" I said, "Yeah." She was like, "You ain't even let me try it on." I said, "Look, it's been down here since we moved."
Look,
Yeah.
she went like that. No.
Yeah.
It's been down here since we moved.
It's so hard to let go of that stuff, man.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, that's the hardest thing to do. Just because I always think like I'm gonna wear it one day.
Well,
You know what
guys,
I'm saying?
there was
listen.
shirts in there, collared shirts and stuff I had bought that still had the tags on it because they just got lost
Man.
in between everything else.
You
we
been
think we
balling.
need everything and can't
Yeah.
let go of
Well,
nothing.
so it kind of leads into the segue of trauma, like experiencing trauma. For me, I think it can go both ways. So I know that it's hard for me to get rid of certain things because, I didn't have certain things as a kid.
Yeah.
So the way I value certain things and not, my value of those things, it's hard for me to let things go simply because a lot of things, what I've been through, and I'm like, I don't want to ever have to live without it or go without this. So I feel like I need it. And the crazy thing about it is, if I got rid of it, and if I ever need it again,
You
I
can
have
get
money.
it. Yeah.
I can go buy it.
Yeah.
So why am I still clinging? But I think some of it, I'm not saying all of it. I'm saying for me, some of it stems from, childhood trauma, not having and things like that. So that's what happens,
I think that it falls in the same line of like having that equal balance, right? So the reason why we do what we do for our kids is because we seen the other side of it,
Yeah.
right? So we got to experience lack, we got to experience not having, we got to experience the thought of like, man, I wonder what it's like to have this or have that. So now that we're parents, it's the complete opposite of that, right?
Yeah.
And but there's a danger found in that. Right. There's a
absolutely.
danger. And that's why there has to be an equal balance of like, yes, I provide for you, but at the same time, I have to teach you what taking care of your stuff
Exactly.
is, right? Working for what
Yeah.
you want. You
And
know what I
talking
mean?
about
Yeah.
trauma, I was listening to a podcast yesterday about trauma, and the guy basically said, why is it not more common to go to therapy to deal with trauma?
Yeah.
Like, why do people view therapy as a bad thing? And he was like, imagine the baggage that you had trauma from your childhood, and you put that in your friendships, you put that in your church, you put that in your life, but you never actually deal with it.
And you know
So
what?
you just take that trauma everywhere with
Yep.
you.
Yeah.
And like how he put it, he said, you picked even a wife on, she just wasn't like the last wife I left.
Absolutely.
She wasn't like the last one I left. So you never actually dealt with the trauma. You just picked someone based on the trauma you experienced.
Right.
So you basically the world has changed the word trauma to toxic, and it makes it such a bad thing. Like a toxic person, a lot of times is someone who's experienced a whole lot of trauma in their life. Looking at their morals, how they encounter situations, just in general, how they stay in denial, how people that are narcissistic, all these traits that we consider toxic traits are really just a byproduct of experiencing trauma in your life.
Yeah. It's
Right,
just like, it's just so whenever you was talking, if think about the idea of it's like a trash bag, right? You can just throw stuff in there, right? Over time, it gets filled up.
Yeah.
If you want to, you can keep stacking stuff in the trash can, right?
Absolutely.
Nick does it all the time. His trash can will be
My kids do it.
overflowing, right?
My kids was playing Jenga the other
But
day.
what can you do if you want to make more room?
Push it down.
You can just suppress it,
Yeah.
right? And then just keep on adding layers of trash. But if it's never dealt with, that's what that person's going to be made up of.
Yeah. So think about this: the more you compress it, the heavier it gets.
Yeah. Hey, did you know that they have a trash compactor for houses? I got one.
Wow, it's next
How
level.
do you got a trash compactor?
It came with the house.
Next level, ain't it?
Man, next
Bro,
level. They're rich.
you put it in there, and it I'm like, but what's the sense of this? Instead of taking out a bag of trash, I'm taking out a block of trash.
And it's heavy too, ain't it?
It's real heavy.
So
But that's what I'm saying. Go ahead, Nick.
No, so think about what we do is your body just adjusts, your mind adjusts
That's
to
it.
walking with heaviness, right?
That's it.
Yeah.
So because you never deal with it, you never release, you never unload it, you just get used to this is normal.
Yeah.
And I remember like when Jonna would tell me, like that's not healthy behavior, Nick, to not talk about your problems, to not communicate them, things you're dealing with.
It was completely foreign to you too.
And she would try to get me to talk about it, and I wouldn't. I would just go in the room and shut the door.
Yeah.
Whether we was fighting or whether I had stuff on my mind. Like Jonna would always know it because I would go to an alone place, in my house.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't come out. I would just go to sleep or something.
Yeah.
And she would be like, what's wrong? And my immediate go-to was nothing.
Yeah.
Well, that's because as a child, you grow up with, get over it.
Yeah.
You can't talk about it. Shut up.
Yeah,
Shut up.
We don't want to deal with
You're
that.
soft.
Yeah.
So you learn and it gets heavy to not even deal with natural emotions.
Yeah. So like I've caught myself doing it in the past with my kids, like, why are you crying? What's the whole point of crying?
Mm-hmm.
And over the past probably year or so, I just realized like, and maybe a little bit longer than that it's okay to cry.
Yeah.
It's okay to cry.
That's a natural
Just realize
emotion.
what you're crying for. Is it worth giving off the emotions that you're giving off and understanding like, why am I crying?
Yeah.
And I don't want my kids to think that crying is a bad thing.
No.
Because think about this: 60% of men deal with trauma. 60%.
Yeah, I would say it's probably more.
No, I mean that's just what the statistics say on on this database. I'll tell you in a second. But I think 60% men and 50% of women are still dealing with childhood trauma. Think about that, or going through it right now.
Because we never been taught to, just like Nick said, we never been taught to talk about it. Why are we communicating about this? You know what I'm saying?
There's so many different ways to go with this, and how what our culture or as far as like our family and what we've dealt with when it comes to trauma, because it's deeply rooted in toxic masculinity, also
generational.
Generational. That toxic masculinity is generational. Meaning, like Nick was saying, men don't cry, men are strong, men don't show emotion, be tough, all these different things. And what that is really doing is creating a monster.
So even think about
it is.
So even think about the monster it creates in men are always at this place where you can never be weak. You can never. So what we do, even if you're in a bad situation, like Jonna would tell you, because I didn't want to let her down or my family down or seem like a failure, I would lie about the situation, right?
Yeah.
Like say money was tight because I didn't want to talk about it or deal with it. Yeah, I would just make the problem worse by lying about it. Like I'd be like, "Oh yeah, I did that."
Yeah.
Or yeah, I paid that, knowing I hadn't, and I'm
it's gonna go away.
Yeah, knowing I'm just shuffling money around and knowing I'm in a bad situation.
Yeah.
I would just rather not her know and me rather deal with it on my own. And it always 10 times out of 10 times, my trauma or my lack of dealing with it or facing it has made the problem
Absolutely
worse.
Oh yeah. So it's what it is when we're in those moments, we don't want them to feel what we know that we're feeling.
Yeah.
We don't want them to have to deal with what we know that is coming, right?
Yeah.
So like whenever you are in those situations, not dealing with them seems so much easier.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because why do I want for my family to have to feel this? You know what I'm saying? I don't want for them to have to worry. I don't want for them to have to stress.
But it's
I can handle the stress.
And I think
let's real quick, let's share this.
Well, we think we can handle it, right, Ju?
Oh, 100%.
Like, and that's what I think the hardest thing is like, why is it not a natural thing to be like, man, I don't know if I can handle this.
That's it.
I'm sad. Or I just feel down and today, and I don't know why I feel down.
Yeah. But the problem is just like the trash can, right?
It's my fault.
What happens over time is we just keep compacting, we keep suppressing, we keep we deal with this situation, we don't know how to deal with it, so we take it and we just push it down.
Yeah, so we wonder why divorce rate is over 50%. Like we wonder why marriages are on the rocks right now is because a lot of times you have two individuals that have been through trauma coming together and creating what? More trauma, more drama.
And I always like what Rob Penny says, and he says, we are so adapt to everything's fine is we start giving Walmart answers. How you doing? I'm good.
Yeah.
just like a Walmart greeter. How you doing? Your reaction is to say, I'm good.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But what if you ain't good?
Yeah.
Yeah. When people usually ask me I learned this at FOS. If you ask me, you better be prepared. Because a lot of times I'm going to tell you how I'm feeling right then and there. It might take 20 minutes.
So the issue in dealing with undealt with trauma is your friends, you generally learn, especially with texting now, don't let people in.
Yeah.
Don't let people into your problems. Don't let people into what you're dealing with. Don't let people into your facing. So then you're left by yourself in the middle of an ocean thinking you can swim your way out of it.
Yeah.
And we know that even if you swim your way out of it, you're going to come out with some shark bites and some more trauma than you went in to begin with.
Yeah, it's like even though you got out of the situation, the person is still just as bad off.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So even though so now you're just in a different situation, but with the same baggage, dealing with things the same exact way.
Yeah. So it was a pastor yesterday talking about it. And he said he thinks one of the worst things a church has done is, hey, you just get healing. We're just going to pray it out of you.
Yeah.
And he said, I don't know why churches earlier on didn't just embrace, hey, we are going to pray for you, but we're going to send you to therapy.
Oh, yeah. That's the worst thing that could happen.
Yeah.
Because you're not never dealing with anything, right? So just like I think I sent y'all a video the other day, they said that success for a lot of people is not good. Yeah. Quick success, quick financial gain, it actually ultimately hurts people because you don't know how to deal with it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, you think about it too, like, this may be off subject, but like when you see lottery winners,
right, the same exact thing,
millions of dollars, and they're broke a year later, 2 years later, because a lot of those people who are paying the lottery, they're looking for a wish,
quick fix,
they're looking for a quick fix. So when it happens, and you ain't address those issues, everything else is going to continue to carry on.
It's the same, just with money now.
Just with money.
So now it's intensified.
100%. So then, it creates a much larger problem. And in fact, you see some where they were worse off after they won the lottery than they was before.
Every time.
So,
you know what I mean?
So what we do is we put a Band-Aid on the cut, right?
Absolutely.
And the cut is getting bigger, and we try to put a bigger Band-Aid on it. Well, eventually, if you don't deal with it and put true medicine on it at its root, then it's your leg's going to get infected and fall off.
Yeah.
And if you don't deal with your leg getting infected and falling off, it's going to get in your bloodstream.
Yeah.
And that trauma undealt with will eventually kill you.
Yeah, we're trying to put a Band-Aid over something that needs surgery.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the hardest things as men just to admit is I don't have all the answers.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I need help. Right? Why is that? Well, why is that so hard? Like even in the last few months, I lost a big paycheck. I lost a big part of my paycheck. It was the hardest thing. And, me and my friends talked about it yesterday. It was the hardest thing for me just to admit, man, this is tough.
Yeah. I'm struggling.
Like I'm struggling. Like, and even though we're okay financially, it was hard for me just to admit it was hard to adjust my lifestyle.
Yeah. What the problem is we don't like to say, man, this don't feel good.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? We always want it to feel good because we don't want to deal with like, man, this is tough right now. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because, and I think it comes from a selfish place of, and what I mean is, so if I'm going through something, I don't want Nick to feel it.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to express that because I don't want Nick to stress too.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I don't want my kids to worry about, man, is something going to happen?
Exactly.
You know what I mean? So it comes from a good place, but in doing so, it just creates more issues down the line.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just creates a bigger monster, right?
That's all it does is the like what I said about the trash bag. The trash bag just continues to grow. That trash bag will stretch, especially if you get them good ones. Look, I learned you can't go cheap on trash bags.
I know.
For that very reason.
You carry that trash bag out, it rips.
Hey,
and trash is all over
the ground. Think about if I told y'all I started going to therapy. Most of the world would say, "What's wrong? Something's wrong with
you.
Something's really wrong with Nick if he's going to therapy." When I'm just trying to be a healthy Nick. Why not go to therapy?
Yeah.
Right? And I think that's the big misconception of therapy, of counseling. And I learned that from Grace Marriage. It was, you don't go to counseling when your marriage is bad. You go when it's good to keep it good.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And I think
proactive.
And I think the same thing in therapy is you deal with it on the front end because on the back end there's a monster.
Yeah.
And if you're not careful, what you end up doing, like what you see so many people doing in abusive relationships, is they'll get out of that abusive relationship to end up in another one.
Yeah, I seen. So what's been on the topic is Blueface. He's a rapper, and this girl that he's dating. She's a younger
The girl with the missing tooth.
Yeah, the girl with the missing tooth.
She's a thug.
Man, but listen though. So it just goes to show you like the example that
Everybody
I
else can
gave.
see it.
People with trauma getting into a relationship together is immediately like going to create a disaster. So this girl, her lifestyle, like I want to say she was raised, and I could be wrong.
She got a bunch of brothers and sisters.
But like 9 brothers and sisters.
Yeah, 11.
Where they were all like taking care of each other, and like she made it out. Like, and this is not just like we're talking about anywhere. Like we're talking about in Kentucky. This is like the Bronx. Like she was raised in the concrete jungle.
Yeah.
You know, with her brothers and sisters. So imagine going to school like that. Imagine, you know, taking showers in gas station bathrooms, or taking, you know, baths in gas station bathrooms. Like dealing with that. The chances of her getting raped she probably got raped as a kid. She was talking about how fighting to her, she's like fighting is, I've been fighting my whole life. Like, this is what I do. Like, she fights. She's a fighter. I mean, you've seen it whenever they got into a fight on TMZ where like she's fighting him like a man.
Yeah, she threw him hands.
Like, you know what I mean? So like when they interviewed her, and she was talking about like the guy was like, so do you love Blueface? Like, do you really love him? And you could see it in her eyes. Like, you could see like where she's almost getting ready to break down in tears, like, he saved my life.
Yeah.
But out of her gratitude, yes, she can be grateful that he saved her life, but it's not going to work because she has deep-rooted issues that she needs to deal with.
Yeah.
That it resurfaces every time. Like, you can see it in her eyes. Like, she reminds me of Mike Tyson.
Yeah.
It only intensified.
Yeah.
Think about a woman who's been beat down in their self-worth, right?
Yeah.
So what do they end up doing? Even if they leave one guy, they pick another guy based on they don't have self-worth.
Yeah.
So they don't even think they deserve a good guy.
Absolutely.
So they don't even pick out of a healthy place. They pick out of a place of, can I even be loved?
Yeah.
Will a good guy even love me? Will a good, is there any good out there for me? So the woman that has self-worth issues, that don't deal with self-worth issues, she's not picking from a healthy place. She's picking from a battle of self-worth. So almost anything available looks good to me.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think about the marriages that get married in their 20s. Well, the woman has trauma. The man has trauma. Most of it's probably undealt with. So now they're in this relationship together with trauma.
And nobody's dealing with nothing.
And nobody's dealing with
That's
nothing.
what I'm saying. That's what I've been saying.
And everything
like,
gets swept under the rug.
Yeah.
Should there be an age limit on marriage?
I mean, no, but this is what we talked about. We talked about going through marriage counseling.
Yeah.
Marriage counseling was a process where it's still like counseling.
Didn't you have to
still
go
get one-on-one.
before you got married?
I went like 6 months before we got married. And it was the greatest thing, But again, like Nick keeps reiterating, is like we should have been doing it even still when we got married and things were going well.
Stopped.
You know what I mean? So like for me in heaven, just a little background about her. She got pregnant at the age of 15, had a baby when she was 16. And when we first got together, like, I mean, don't get me wrong, I was a pretty rough guy. Like, I was bad. But I didn't I've always had a certain reverence for women. You know what I mean? I wasn't perfect, but I was a mama's boy. So when it comes to how I treated women, I didn't put my hands on women and do things like that. But for her growing up, she lived in a different culture than we did. The colony estates, they was wilding out there.
Was she's colony finest?
Man, she's the colony finest. But for her, like running the streets at like 10
was nothing. Yeah.
Like, she shared with me like her early drug use as a kid, and we're talking about like 11.
Oh yeah, I think
can you imagine
11 for us?
11.
Yeah.
No, I'm talking about drugs.
Oh, you like
drugs?
You talking about like not weed? About
drugs.
And
at like 12.
How old is Mila now? 10?
Mila's 10, so that's around that age.
Imagine that,
dog. It breaks my heart. It would break my so. Therefore, like this is part of us going through like counseling and talking it out. Is like me trying to understand what my wife went through.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And dog, she's been through more than. And
the hard thing is that probably became just normal.
It was normal. So
that's what people do is they equate normal. They're normal with healthy.
Yeah.
This is normal. I've
Yeah.
learned to deal with it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
This ain't
So
abnormal.
whenever we got together, she was different than the majority of girls that I've dated because
Yeah.
I never really dated girls that like had.
From the colony.
I mean, yeah, from the college, however you want, that had childhood issues.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
got to remember
Yeah,
too.
So you wanted to help her.
I mean, I didn't know all this,
Right.
Because you got to understand, when Heaven got pregnant, we were just friends.
So we think about she's independent, strong-willed,
Yeah.
all those things because she had to learn that from a.
Oh yeah.
early
So it's
age.
just getting started. Like, so she had a kid at 16, 17 years old during that process, and like her baby's dad was a boy too. He was a
Yeah.
kid. He was younger than her.
Yeah.
So the way he treated her was how he grew up. He was in colony too. So man, like, from them fighting and like literally fist fighting, and like, just put it this way. When we got together, she was running, or she was trying to find herself. And I'm sure for the longest, her self-worth or her value, I know for sure it's way different now.
Yeah.
But she didn't see herself as her self-worth wasn't that high. So whenever she encountered me and I started treating her
Yeah.
different, she didn't know how to react.
Hey, I'm telling you, when that's all you see, whenever thinking about colony, right? I'm
Yeah.
telling you, my brother used to live out there.
I used to all
Look,
the
I'm
time.
telling you, look, this is what's so crazy is whenever you're in that environment, it's insane the things that become normal.
Listen,
Well, think about,
I'm-
I mean, it's insane.
let me share this real quick. Because so Nick and Rob both lived out in the colony with their brother, right? And I remember coming
I
out
ain't
there.
gonna
'Cause
say
I'd have to y'all lived.
Man, we stayed a
Look,
couple days.
I remember Nick lived out there for a long time. I remember going out there to visit and stepping over holes in the hallway,
That's what I'm
Yeah,
saying.
like where you can see the floor, like the ground
Yeah,
through the floor.
yeah.
And we just like
It was
like,
normal.
I mean, like I just looked at it, walked past it, and didn't think none of it.
So it's a perfect picture of what happens is we humans, we adapt to chaos.
Oh yeah,
So
we adapt to like the craziest situations, and we say that this is normal now
Yeah.
because look, I got a hole in my house, but my neighbor.
that
got-
wasn't the only
my-
one though.
my-
There was multiple. There was one in the
Look,
bathroom,
but
one in
what
the
I'm saying
hallway.
is my neighbor got
Yeah,
double the amount of holes in theirs.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
we doing all
I've seen
right.
that.
yeah. So y'all doing better. What you gonna say, Nick?
So think about what Heaven carried into y'all's marriage,
She
right?
brought the colony.
So
into
she did. So she probably didn't know how to be soft, right? She did probably like it was always probably like fight. Like you can't tell me what to do.
Dog, I remember us getting in fights,
From
and
the
she would be up in
streets.
my face like she's ready to throw hands, like
Man,
for real.
I'm from
Yeah,
the
it's like
streets.
where is
Like
this
dare
coming
you?
from?
I dare you to. I dare you. Go ahead and try me.
She was from a
Yeah.
different
And I'm
concrete
like,
jungle.
We had a conversation one time, and I like, this is how I feel. Like she changed the way I loved. She grew me cold, like a cold heart.
Oh yeah, it did something to you.
It
didn't
did something to me, and I
Yeah.
mean now I'm getting better.
She was like, I ain't never felt nothing like
I
this
ain't-
before.
Like
What is this?
the crazy thing is I loved her so much. She was the mother of my kids. I love her so much. She was the mother of my kid. But like I'm like, I can't deal with this.
Yeah.
Like she's really
Next level.
crazy. Like,
Yeah.
but she didn't deal. You gotta understand too. Her dad died at 15.
Yeah.
He died at the jail. All the stuff that she's experienced, and I'm talking about like verbal abuse at its finest. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like, my eyes are itching. But verbal abuse at its finest. So coming into this relationship, like it was probably one of the. I thought drug addiction was the biggest battle I was ever going to go through, but the biggest battle I've ever went through was fighting for my wife, fighting to
Man.
love my wife, like fighting to love her, even when her love was totally different.
Man.
And
So her love can be, all right, we're just sitting here hanging out.
Oh yeah, you talking different.
My love is hey,
Hey.
look, tell me, hey, give me some affirmation. Come up and give me a kiss. Like,
Yeah.
tell me I'm doing a good job. Like,
Yeah.
but she was never around that. She never got exposed to that. So when you're not exposed to anything alike, or you've never seen a man maneuver, and I wasn't perfect, but when Jesus changed my heart, it was a whole nother ball
Oh, you
game.
love different. Yeah.
I love different. And like I started giving her finer things in life, and she could not understand why this man was loving her this way
Yeah.
and doing these things for her.
Yeah.
But guys, I'm just telling you, you keep fighting. You fight for your wife. I tell you, like I always say, hey, you had that energy when you married her. Keep that same energy when
Man.
you're going through that season.
I know that's
And-
right.
Because in that, when you see her blossom, hey, it's beautiful. It's the
Man.
most beautiful thing.
She's like the colony rose.
Dog, she's like
Hey,
the col-
She grew.
She's the concrete. She's the rose that grew from a concrete.
But
from
I
concrete.
see what you did, and this was the big shift in y'all's marriage.
Oh, yeah.
Looking from the outside, looking in, is you stopped trying to change who she was.
Oh,
And you embraced it.
I know.
So for a long time, you would want to change her, right? Like, hey, be more like how I want you to be, or why are you doing things this way? Why are you so tough? Like, like all these things. And I seen you do a shift where you just embraced her for who she was.
Man.
Oh,
And I think that's the hardest thing is, look, from her past experiences and even in counseling, I learned, your family of origin, why you see things the way you see them is the way you grew up. You trace it back, from your dad and then from your grandparents. Like,
yeah, where did this come from?
Where did this come from,
Yeah.
right? Like, why are you the way you are, and why is your wife? Well, what that helped me and Jonna learn is I love the house clean and in order and spotless. Where Jonna, she grew up where it wasn't a big deal.
Yeah.
You could just take your clothes off and throw them
Everywhere.
down.
Man, Rob's the same way, and I know for y'all.
So I used to want to like go crazy,
Yeah.
like, Jonna, pick up this stuff.
Yeah.
But when you see the family of origin, and it's like, okay,
Yeah, that's what it is.
like
Let's
it's not
be
saying
honest.
that their house is dirty.
Let's be honest. How many times have you blooped out over it?
A lot. But it's not saying that. But I would try to change her, right?
Yeah.
That's it.
And he, when I traced it back with the counselor, it was able to help me see it from a new view.
And her.
And
Yeah.
like, hey, some people, when the laundry is clean and it's in the baskets, that's done.
That's
Yeah.
good enough. The laundry's clean.
For me, it's not done until it's
Yeah,
in the
until
drawers.
it's in the
And
drawers.
it bugs
Folded
me.
up proper.
Absolutely.
And it bugs me. But when we trace that back, we seen the why. And when
Yeah.
we was like,
And
that.
guys, you got to understand, when Nick and them grew up from like 8th grade, I mean, from middle school to all the way through high school, probably earlier than that, like when they had to wake up at a certain time. And when they woke up, their beds had to be made. Like everything had to be uniform, in order. Listen, I can remember walking in
we had to pick out our clothes
the
the night
before, the Martin's residence. And when I say that was the cleanest house that I've ever been in, it was literally the cleanest house I've ever been in.
Yeah.
It wasn't, I mean, it might not have been the biggest. It might not have been the great, but listen, it was a nice house. And I tell you one thing, you could sleep on that floor without even worrying about a speck of dust on there.
Lewis had his trinkets
So
everywhere.
that's the
I'm
hard.
telling
he would
you.
just take up pictures that didn't make no sense.
Look, I was sitting on the couch one day, and he didn't say it to me, but he looked at me and gave me the vibe where I sat up. Like I was listen, I was sitting too comfortable on his couch.
Hey, so that's the hardest part, right? Is like, is my way the way? No.
No.
But my way was my way for me. Like,
It worked, yeah.
And I tried to project that on Jonna.
Absolutely.
Well, I can't project that on Jonna because she didn't have the same life experiences
She
I
has
had.
her
Absolutely.
way.
She has her way and I have my way. And we spend so much time saying, hey, you be more like me, instead of me loving you for who you are and looking past that.
Yeah.
I think that's why you have to deal with it together or go to therapy.
But there's a fine balance too. Okay, so yes, we are to basically just lead and not try to get them to conform to us, right? But there has to be a certain level of accountability also.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? Let's not forget, like, it's not like I completely took the pressure off. I just took a different approach to the way I address certain things.
But that was when you seen the biggest shift,
yeah,
right?
that's when. So once I stopped condemning her,
Yeah.
and I started to love her through it and work with her through it, and just stop complaining and nagging about
I remember
certain
it was
things.
hard for you because so many people would even point out her flaws, right? Like,
Oh, yeah.
she's doing that.
Yep.
And I remember there was a point like, man, I love her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
that was when you seen the biggest change because she
Yeah.
started to embrace the love you really had for
Oh,
her.
100%.
Hey,
100%.
so what I keep hearing is like this reoccurring thing. Just thinking about the trash cans, right? So what happens when we get in a relationship is we take two different trash bags and then we put them together, right?
Yeah.
And now we got a bigger mess, right?
Yeah.
Because it's never taken out.
Yeah, absolutely.
You walk into somebody's house before and you smell that smell.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You know where it's coming from.
Yeah. It's just the same as when you walk around somebody and you see the
That's it.
husband and wife and
That's
they ain't clicking,
That's
you
it.
know it.
That's what I'm saying.
You know, you're like, hey, something ain't right.
And it's because it hasn't been dealt with. It
Yeah.
ain't been taken out and cleaned out.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? The proper steps, and because it takes time. Like, people hate taking out the trash, right? It's just
Yeah.
it ain't hurt nothing. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, the trash can analogy is so great because what about this? Kids should never carry the burdens of their parents. And nowadays kids carry the burden. So it's
that's
just
it.
like we're compacting all this trash and expecting our kids to
Man.
deal with it also.
So now that we're together now, right? So now we just got a bigger trash bag full of all this trash and chaos and not dealing with things.
Teaching our kids the same thing.
Right. So then we start taking stuff from that
Yeah.
and putting it into them.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
Right. So then they're having to take not just what they're learning, but they're taking our stuff too.
Our trash is overflowed.
Man, it's compacted.
And we're filling up their trash can.
That's all we do.
Yeah.
That's exactly.
That's a great analogy,
that's
man.
Exactly what we do.
Man, where'd you find that at?
That's why, like, for our
God did.
God did.
That's why for our house, it's like shouldn't be a bad thing to receive therapy, to receive counseling, to receive help, because I'm a flawed person. My wife's a flawed person.
Yeah.
Deal with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Quit sweeping it under the rug. Quit sweeping the mess where you can't see it.
That's it.
Because eventually it's going to come out. Eventually it is going to manifest itself in a real monstrous way.
Yeah.
So I think as we talk about therapy, as we talk about trauma, if you ain't dealing with it, it's going to deal with you.
That's it.
And I think it will show itself, like whether it's drug use, whether it's gambling, whether it's pornography, that's undealt with trauma, and you're going to something else to find a release.
That's it.
And it's all unhealthy, destructive ways. So I just think as we go on, like embrace, hey, I don't have all the answers. I don't have all the solutions. I need help.
Absolutely.
I need someone to walk with me.
Yeah.
I need accountability. I need counseling. I need structure. Just even to be a listening voice in my life, I think that's huge.
Yeah.
Because again, if I deal with myself, I get used to this is normal.
You get used to the
Yeah.
trash. Yeah.
This feels normal to me.
Like what happens when you're around something that smells bad?
You can't even smell it.
You can't even smell it.
Like when I walk in a house that has a cat, I can smell it.
Right. That's what I'm
The
saying.
people there can't smell it. I'm
Yeah,
like,
what are you
y'all got a
talking
cat.
about?
They like,
Yeah.
well, it don't smell like a cat. I'm like, man, it smells like 10 cats.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you've been around it so long that you just grown used to that smell.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? You're now the odor and the everything that comes with it is normal.
So what's the application? Where do you start at? What's
Take
the first
trash
step?
out.
What's the first step? I know, but like relate that to like.
Start. Let's deal with what is going on. Right. So here's a
Okay,
perfect,
so how do
here's
you?
a-
Okay, so
Here-
let's break it down.
That's what
How
I'm
do
about to
you deal?
Here's a
Okay.
perfect example. Me and my wife, we got into it the other day, right?
Okay.
And instantly, I seen it. You know how you're with somebody for so long that you begin to know,
What direction
What they're
is going?
doing?
Yeah, yeah.
you know what I'm saying? So for her, and it's just her default is whenever something she doesn't like something, she automatically gets like
Defensive.
defensive. You know what I'm saying? And it's because, and I've seen it and I traced it back. And I do it sometimes as
Yeah.
well.
Oh yeah.
But what that mechanism is this is how she deals with it, because she doesn't know how to say I'm scared. She
Yeah,
doesn't know how to
exactly.
say I don't like this.
Yeah.
Right. So it just shows itself in that form. Right.
Man.
But and I'm guilty of it as well.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So that's what'll happen when you're with somebody for so long. And the best thing that you can do is say, look, really just talking like, why do you feel the way that you do?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I think that's why whenever we was doing the marriage nights or whatever, the couples nights,
Okay.
that's why it helped out so much, because we was able to deal with what we was dealing with.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
We was able to get outside perspectives.
Yeah.
What? Yeah, go ahead.
You see what I'm saying? Like we was able to say, hey, this is what we've been dealing with. We used to do highs and lows, right? And the reason for that is because we was able to share that with people, and they be able to give us some tools to be able to help us through the next week.
Yeah.
For me, what helps me, and I always talk to Rob about this, and you see some couples, and they fight, and they never deal with the fight. It's just the problem's over because we don't want to fight no more.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So you see that, and I've counseled so many couples where there's a big blow up, there's a big fight. Well, they never really even dealt with the argument and the root of it. They just stopped fighting one day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they never actually accomplished anything
Yeah.
other than we don't even want to talk about it no more. It's just over.
Yeah, so for me, to give a real, a example is, all right. So when me and Heaven finally hit that Y in the road, it was from me. Like a lot of the stuff two that she was dealing with that I probably could have fixed or we could have worked on, I condoned it for a while,
Mhm.
right? So her like going out to the club by herself, without her husband, her doing stuff that or should be a couples type thing,
Yeah.
doing solo, because my job and things like that, but I remember.
Man, I remember it.
Look, I'm telling you, I was
look,
coming home.
You can take the girl out of the colony, but you can't take the colony
Calling you out of the girl. I'm telling you, look. So,
But I remember, hey, that was hard.
that was a hard thing because listen, this is the first time
Oh,
I had
man.
ever thought about like really leaving my wife, right? So, I'm in Chicago. She's out. I told her, I'm like, hey, look,
Man.
go to Bar Louie. I don't care. Like, I want you to have fun. I don't want to. Like, I have been so hard on her about hanging, which I probably should have been, right? But
When you're in it, you just don't know how to deal with it.
she's at because I was working at Friends of Sinners, and one night she asked me, she was like, well, it ain't like you can't go with me. And I started to think,
Man.
at that time I wasn't ready. I mean, I wouldn't have been ready. I probably would have done something dumb for sure.
Yeah.
So I catch myself thinking like, man, maybe I can, and maybe I can have a beer. It's just a beer. But then I'm like, immediately, I feel like the spirit like killed the thought. I'm just like, look, go have fun. Just make sure you're home at 12. And bro, I called her. I was getting ready to go to bed. I'm in Chicago, getting ready to lift the next morning. I called her, and it was like 11 o'clock, and she was like, I'm like, what are y'all doing? She's like, oh, we're getting ready to leave. I'm like, oh, you're getting ready to head home? It's like, no, we're getting ready to leave and head to the bar.
Yeah, we've been.
I'm like, what you mean? She's like, well, so and so them didn't get over here until X amount of time, and I get that. Like, she wasn't lying about it.
Yeah. Hey, but you was by yourself. I know you was thinking.
I'm thinking, I'm like, hold up, I ain't even
what?
home.
Huh?
You know how Galen, funny man Galen, where he's like,
Oh yeah.
you ain't left yet. That's what I'm thinking about. You ain't left yet. So I call her and I'm like, all right, just call me whenever you're heading home or whatever. I'm like, just don't stay out too late. So bro, the party moved from there to the club.
After party.
They're at the after party. And I called her and she's like, oh yeah, I'm heading home right now. Such and such couldn't get a ride and we ended up here. I'm like, bro, we live right on the road. Like, they could have dropped you off.
Yeah.
And she was like, oh, I know, such and such. So I just said, call me when you get home. And I went back to sleep. So I woke up at like 4 o'clock in the morning and her phone was off. So immediately I'm like, oh, this skank.
Yeah.
Like, she's out creeping.
Back to the
backdoor.
Yeah.
Backdoor Jody is at my house
Yeah.
or she's running around somewhere. So and again, I had somebody go by my house because I couldn't get a hold of her, right?
Hey, I bet your fingers were working.
Oh, look, I probably wrote a novel in that season.
Yeah.
Like, but I was done. Like, I told her, I left a message. I said, listen, and I was calm. That's probably what scared her. I was calm about it. I said, look, Pack, when I get home, I want you to have your stuff packed. I'll take the kids. You go to your mom's.
Yeah, me and my kids will not be living like this.
I said, I'm done. I'm not living like. I said, I'm done. We're gonna sell the house and we get a divorce. Like, you couldn't have told because in my mind,
you came to a place.
In my mind, dealing with trauma is running.
You didn't want to have to. You didn't want to keep dealing with it.
I didn't want to keep dealing because I'm gonna run instead of fixing the issues. I wanted to run.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
So what I did was when I got, man, Steve Carlisle saved my marriage that day on my way home. He said, do you really believe in Christ? And I said, yeah, I love Jesus. Like, no, do you really believe in Christ? And I said, yeah, like I mean it.
Yeah.
And he said, did Jesus love you where you was at in your sin? And I said,
look, you don't want to hear it. You don't want to hear it.
I knew, look, the crazy thing about it, I knew where he was going.
Yeah.
He said, what better way can you show the love of Christ to your wife than loving her when she's at her worst?
That was when the shift happened.
Did he love you at your worst? Look, I get tears in my eyes thinking about it. Like, look, I was mad. I was done. I had a divorce already. The plan was already in my mind. It was already set.
Yeah.
Because I'm thinking in my mind, like, I can do bad by myself. I know there's girls out here that would love a man. Like, you know how we played it right? They would love a man. Like, I'm a high, what is it? A high
value man.
I'm a high value man now. I got my stuff together.
Yeah, grade A.
Like, I can get somebody to take care of me, and I ain't taking care of nobody.
Right.
They're paying my bills.
Yeah.
And this is what the enemy wants to sow in my mind, right?
I can find a better girl.
Yeah,
I can find a better girl.
Yeah, the grass is green.
And he hit me with that. So, like, I'm on my way home. I'm tired. I'm crying, like, because I'm going through this battle of, like, I don't want to do this no more.
I've been doing everything.
Yes.
Right, and it still ain't going.
And
the
think
way it's
about
supposed to
if
be.
you would have made that decision, how life would look so different today.
Dog,
Man.
I wouldn't be a champion today.
Yeah.
Man.
I take it that deep. If I would have divorced my wife that season, I wouldn't have been a champion today.
Think about-
because I would have compromised.
Well, even
I would
with-
have compromised in one way.
Definitely.
All it would have took is a girl saying, "Hey, look, you can come over and get this
That's
booty."
it.
Well, think
That's
about
it.
She
the
could have had some
kids.
drugs out. My
The-
kids, all
now
my
the kids
kids.
dealing with the divorce.
Yeah.
Now
So, man, listen, I'm telling you.
That's what happens, man. Just think about it. That just more and more and more and more.
Yeah,
and
man.
more.
So, like, even think about this in couples.
You chose to deal
Yeah,
with
I chose
that.
it. So we started going to counseling. We went back to marriage
Man,
counseling.
that's a heck of a
We started.
story.
Look, she cut off her friends that were single.
Man, look, that was the main thing in that season, wasn't
Yeah,
it?
it was
Because you
one of the
loved
main.
her.
Yeah.
You loved her.
I remember.
So,
it.
but my battle was, I don't want to control my wife. I want her to do it on her own.
Right.
But doing it on our own was like, hey, look, we're going out for New Year's. So that wasn't the end.
Yeah,
So she went out again.
I remember it.
So what it took, you know me, I'm the Care Bear. I'm the Care Bear. But Rocky couldn't let us. It was marinating. It was marinating in the
It was
meat.
slow
Look, it was
cooking.
marinating and the season was and the meat was seasoned. And I mean he just lost it. And
Yeah.
she's like, "You gonna let him talk to me like that?" And I said, What do you want me to say? I said, Heaven, is everything that he's saying true?
Yeah,
And she had to take a look at it and say, yeah. I mean, like,
man.
your husband's at home with your kids and you're out partying with your friends.
And he was that voice that needed
And
to
I
come in
think-
and say,
and
"Look,
it changed her.
Y'all's house is
And look,
stinking."
Yeah, it changed her.
And because you loved her through that, I think it made her respect you so much more in the end.
Oh, yeah,
right?
that's my road dog.
He's different.
Yeah.
So I like think about even this in trauma. I always tell Rob,
He been a regular.
one of Rob's biggest things when there's an argument is Rob gets loud.
Yeah.
He
We're
starts-
working on it.
Yeah,
I've been telling him about
I get
it.
passionate.
he starts yelling.
You know what I'm saying? I get
He
passionate.
But think
looked at
about
me and said, I get passionate.
So think about that. Where that stems from, where you just can't have a conversation about the issue.
That's a
Yeah.
defense mechanism.
It's a
can't.
defense mechanism, and I'm
Yeah.
like, Rob, just sit down,
Yeah.
just talk about it.
Yeah.
It's no, blah, 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 blah. Well, we ain't getting nothing done.
yeah,
now.
well, nothing's getting done.
Yeah.
But so think about if it's undealt with, because like I'll sit down with Rob, or I'll sit down with Rob and Amy. His main go-to is to start yelling,
Yeah.
and then it's a hostile environment because there's yelling going on.
This is what I've been working on in that. I think this is the main thing that's helped me to stop yelling in an argument is,
I
and
gotta
this
get
is
calm
this is only with my
you
wife.
did.
It's but listen, that's what it is. Listen, take 5 seconds to respond. Count down in your head.
Drew, I'm gonna be counting quick. Like
No.
one
But
Mississippi, two
listen,
Mississippi,
listen,
three
Rob.
Mississippi.
This is at work. This is at home. You have to start learning how to think through it instead of responding out of anger.
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
Because the whole point of what we're doing, you're defeating the purpose, Bob.
yeah.
That's
By
what
doing
Francis Chan says
Reacted.
in his
Yeah.
in his marriage course I've went through. He says, "Who cares who won the argument if you lost the heart?"
Yeah.
Man.
So I always love that, and he does his marriage series in a garage because he said a garage is always a work in progress.
Man, I bet
So
his
he-
garage is
I like
big.
that.
So he was like, "Nah,
Yeah,
they
big
just was in a
garage.
normal house." It was like they probably shot in somebody else's house, but it was a normal garage, right? So he took you around to his
Yeah.
garage and said, "Look,
There's
this is
here.
stuff I've been wanting to fix. This is stuff I've been
That's
wanting to deal with."
Yeah, it is. Perfect.
So he had this garage, and it was me and you together, right? And the things I learned through it was, who cares if I win the argument? Who cares if I'm right? If I lose my wife's heart in the process?
That's it.
Absolutely.
So for Jonna, it was me and her being able to talk about this and communicate it. When she was like, "Hey, Nick, why do you shut down?" And I'm like, "Hey, we just never dealt with our problems as kids.
Yeah.
Like it was always, hey, shut up and deal with it."
Yeah.
So she was able to understand me a little bit more. Just like when we argue about the kids, right? She has her way, I have my way. And it's, hey, well, this is why I feel like, this is why I hate screaming, because they were screaming in our house all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you knew how it made you feel.
And I knew how it made me belittled,
Yeah.
right? So it's not that I'm against her screaming. It's coming from my childhood. The biggest thing we have to deal with it is now we have another couple that we walk with. So we argued earlier this week. Well, immediately the other couple starts texting us and saying, "Hey, we've been where you've been.
man,
Here's some healthy tips."
man, pouring back into you.
Yeah, so they're
Mm.
pouring back into me. So this morning, because this is a couple that I value, I sent them a marriage retreat next year, and I say, "Hey, I think this would be very healthy for all of us to do, even if we don't do it at the same
Yeah.
time. just to go reinvest
down.
in our marriages.
Man, that's
and
it.
I'm down.
yeah, they're in Georgia.
Look,
And they're only like $600, like for the weekend, right? I mean, I say only, but that's worth it.
it's worth it. You spend $600 on cigarettes and Netflix and jewels for your Candy Crush. So
Yeah, easily.
spend it. But anyway, listen to this though. So with that being said, lost train of thought.
It's all right.
No, but listen, just take time from here on out, Rob. And I mean, even speaking to myself, because I don't get it right all the time.
I got it. 5 seconds.
5 seconds, man, before you respond.
Five Mississippis.
So,
like,
and it's not just
respond
Rob,
like Jesus would.
because I have to fight my inclination too.
That's a high statement.
My first thing when something pops off in my house is
I
go
like
to the room
dealing
and
with-
shut the door.
I like
Yeah.
dealing with stuff like Peter did. You know what I'm saying? I it's hard to deal with.
But
Bro.
sometimes you get caught up sometimes in the moment that everything else is irrelevant. You
It
don't
is.
care.
Or we
I
get
already know. I'm an emotional creature.
That's what I'm
or
saying.
think about this. We get caught up in how bad it is and don't even realize how good it could be
That's
if we
it.
dealt with it.
Man,
That's
that's a
it.
good point, man.
So that's what we
That's
do. It's so bad. It's so bad. Well, if you deal with it, how good could it be?
Yeah. And also too, I don't want to put it off on her like it was all her. Like I hadn't worked through all my trauma either. Like
Yeah.
I went from being this guy that was just so dysfunctional to like a legalistic. Like I was still loving, but I was legalistic and
Yeah,
judgmental.
you
And a
gotta-
lot
you
of
gotta
it's
live
based
this
on
way.
other people's
Yeah.
what they think.
Huh?
A lot of what we do is based on what other people think, right?
Yeah.
Jew, I can't
absolutely.
believe you're letting her do this.
Oh man, listen, I
Jew,
would
are
get
you
phone calls
serious?
of people saying this. I get phone call like
You get pictures.
when you guys would tell me, I would respect it. But when other people would like call or they was just doing it, I'd have been like, man, I can't believe your girl.
Man,
you
she's
walk-
doing the
yeah,
most.
She did this, and I'm like, man, look, okay. So then, how am I supposed to address it with her?
Man, this is the
You know what I mean?
this
Like,
is a great thing that just reminds us and shows us that grace wins every time.
man, grace wins every time.
You know what I'm saying? Showing that level of measure of grace that you've been shown, just like when Carlisle, whenever he told you, look, is this what Jesus did for you?
Yeah,
You can't fight that. Like that's
Man,
the ultimate.
that's what I'm. What could I say? He's like, so you're telling me at your wife's most vulnerable moment
Make or
that,
break.
that you're
point.
gonna leave her?
Yeah. Imagine where she would have been at if you would have left her.
Look, what do you say against that?
We've been back in the colony.
No, I mean, no, she would have been but she probably wouldn't be a mother today.
Right.
And
You know what I mean? Like she would be out going with the wind because
Man.
she never addressed her issues. So she
That's
started
it.
going to
That's
counseling.
it.
She started dealing with her issues. Started giving her affirmation. I started loving her through whatever she was going through, even when I
Look,
didn't like it. Like where the
that's when
bottom
she
of my
started-
soul would be ready to just be like,
I'm done.
I'm done with you.
Yeah.
I remember looking at my like having an argument with my wife, and she would look at me and be like, "Shut up." Like talk to me like I was and I'm like, I used to beat people up for that.
I can't deal with that.
Like, I mean, like pointing in my face, like don't get it twisted. She ain't done that in, I mean, like a decade.
but it's why
like-
she does that, because
Yeah.
that's how she grew up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
It's the
But
why.
a girl in your face telling you to shut your
And here's
your
the
mouth,
craziest
and I'm
thing.
Like, okay.
is
you're a good one.
we marry them knowing they're
Yeah.
flawed.
Oh, I did.
And then we expect them to all of a sudden change to our standard and conform to what we want.
Keep that.
No,
same
you
energy.
married a flawed person.
Keep that. So the thing is we wonder why our marriages don't go the way we think they're supposed to go. Is because we're entering in marriages as broken people.
Yeah, not dealing
Broken
with stuff.
people, traumatized people that ain't never dealt with our issues.
That's it.
So when we encounter problems, guess what's going to happen? It's going to magnify.
It's gonna
we
leak
just
Like
out.
keep
there is
filling
no
it out.
resolution until we work to the not sweeping it on the carpet, not saying, okay, I'm not mad anymore.
Yeah.
Let's kiss, have
Most
sex,
people
and make up
Most people don't get help until it's too late.
until it's too late.
Until that bag breaks.
Yeah.
That's the problem is we both we come into a relationship with packed, overflowing bags, and then we put them together.
Man,
you know
look
what I
like
mean?
some relationships look like a hoarder in there. Look like a hoarder's house.
That's what I'm saying. Nick. We should redo that garage thing.
That's
That gave me chills.
Yeah,
that's
that's
why
it.
I love when I went to marriage counseling at Pleasant Valley.
Rob's got a big garage.
It was the best thing that
He's got
ever
a house
happened.
garage.
Nick got a big garage.
It was the best thing that ever happened because I used to view my marriage as it sucked,
Yeah.
and other people had good marriages. Well, when I learned that, man, all these marriages are struggling,
Yeah, I know, right?
and all of them have went through their things, it gave me hope. Like, good, look, we
That's
can.
it.
There's only one marriage I've ever seen that I believed that I could actually honestly say, okay,
And they would even tell you that they go through things.
yeah, Bob Cinnamon, right?
Yeah, but he ain't had a TV in 40 years.
They ain't had. I know that even magnifies.
That love
it.
is different.
They ain't had a TV. I picture their marriage where they're sitting at a table and they're just floating, levitating, like in the spirit.
Man, that's a great conversation, man.
Absolutely.
Learn to deal with it. I'm gonna take that into consideration. The 5-second rule.
5-second rule, man.
You know what I'm saying?
Before you
but
respond,
after the 5 seconds, just know.
No. Let me get it. Don't get it twisted. Understand the blueprint. I'm talking 5 seconds before you respond to anything.
Hey, I've left. I've been sitting down with Rob before, trying to talk them through some things, and I'll tell him, "Hey, Rob, don't even answer," and then he'll just
answer it anyway.
It's easy for you. I'm like, good Lord, Macho Man Randy Savage.
I know what that. So what
Rob
that
turns
entails
into
is
the Macho Man.
Ooh yeah. So what that means, Rob, for you is deep breath, man. Just deep breath and think about like how I'm going to respond. At the end of the day, it ain't the whole point. We're trying to work through this.
That's it.
Whenever we go head to head like that.
Y'all are not wrong.
No, no, but I'm saying
I'm an emotional creature.
We all
Here's
are.
the thing. Try this. PVCC had us try this, and it was so uncomfortable. They made all the couples go in different rooms, and they said just talk for 30 minutes. And you know how hard that was? I tried to have sex. I was like, look. After about 5 minutes, I was like, "You want to stick out?"
Yeah, listen.
But it was so convicting to me that I couldn't talk to my wife for 30 minutes just in conversation.
Oh, look, me and my
Nick
wife
was trying to get it in the church.
In the church, look, we had me and my wife a couple
reverend.
Weeks ago, and I remember like it's a highlight for me. But I was out of town, and me and my wife was on like the last time I was out of town. Me and my wife was on the phone for like 2 hours.
Wow.
When's the last time you and your wife, like you being away, even been on the phone for 20 minutes carrying on a conversation? Like where you're laughing, and that's different. That was it was such a big deal. I can still remember it. Right. You know what I mean? Like I still remember the feeling. So again, for those who are struggling, vice versa, if you're both struggling, listen. Let's work on being gracious and trying to get to the root of our issues. And when you're fighting and arguing, like. Here's the thing that we all fail at. Now, I do. I succeed sometimes and I fail sometimes, but it's trying to see through your spouse's lens also, where they're coming from, why they're saying what they're saying, why they feel the way they feel.
That's so important.
Once I started to like break that down in those 5 seconds, I started to, like, why is she saying this? Why is she feeling this way?
Yeah, putting yourself in her shoes.
And my response was a little bit because sometimes I was really out of bounds and didn't even realize it.
Right.
Until I thought through that process. I can't think through it if I'm arguing and yelling and screaming and continuing to raise the heat in the room. Right. You know what I mean? Like, so there comes a time where as men of God, when we take a step back and we start to see like, hey, what role did I play in this?
Right.
Am I playing a role right now?
Yeah.
And if I am, then I need to deal with it. And if I ain't, I need to deal with it.
That's why it's good to be 100% accountable to someone. And for them to give you truth that you don't want to hear.
Yeah.
Like I remember Rob, I was like, Rob, you are just like Lewis.
Yeah.
Like everything is a life lesson to you.
But that's a good thing though.
No, it ain't a bad thing.
No, that's a good thing.
It's a good thing.
But it's applied in the right situation.
Yeah, but I'm like everything, like sometimes just hug your kids.
Yeah.
It is. I do.
He does it, but everything's a lesson, right?
Well, back in my days, we had to ask for 50 cents.
I just wanted you to know this.
Was it 50 cents in the pool when we was a kid? How was it? $1?
I think it was like $2.
But you know where that stems from? Is sometimes sometimes I just wanted a hug as a kid.
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
Sometimes I
don't even want to hear you. You know what I'm saying? I ain't want to have to hear the lesson.
Yeah.
You know, just hug me.
Yeah, because again, a lot of times the lesson is just be embraced.
Yeah.
That is the lesson.
Yeah. There's so many, man, that was, I think the greatest thing that we went over, man, is just learning how to deal with it. Whatever that looks like. If that's talking to somebody, man, if that's sitting down and being open to having a real conversation and exposing, not exposing, man, just exploring.
I'm gonna give you some practical steps.
Each other's faults. You know what I mean? Each other's not faults. The things that you struggle with, the things that you're not so good at that the other person may be. But here's also an important thing is it takes two people to do that.
100%.
Right? One person cannot do that and the other person stay stagnant or refuse to bend, to be viable.
So
right?
For me, it is marriage is 100, right?
That's it.
It's our 100 0. But like think about so in the mornings, I wake up at 5 something. Jonna I used to get mad because I wanted her to wake up with me.
Yeah.
So I used to be like, man, why don't you wake up with me? Like it used to hurt my feelings sometimes. Like, you don't want to spend no time together?
Yeah.
Well, she's a night person. So she thought the same thing.
Right.
I go to bed at 8.
With me?
And she's probably like, yeah, you don't want to hang out and watch a movie?
So she thought the same thing. Like, Nick, you can't stay up and watch movies with me? I'm like, I go to bed at 8:30.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
So we both thought we should bend to each other, right?
Yeah.
So, but instead of us trying to make each other do what the other person wanted, like we found a system in like at 8, I usually get the kids ready for bed. I go to bed. She stays up and watches a show. That's her time.
That's Lewis.
In the morning.
Y'all both got characteristics of Lewis.
In the morning, I get up at 5. It's my time, right?
Yeah.
And I let her sleep in.
Yeah, my wife be like, I wake up happy.
I used to pull the covers off of her.
I wake up. You're a savage.
I used to turn on the light on.
I'd be like, get up.
That's when Jonathan said, shut the f-.
Oh, I guarantee it. Listen.
Hey, I used to turn all the lights on.
Real quick, let's end on this.
The first lady.
4 practical steps. Lean on your loved ones. Face your feelings.
Lean on me.
That's a tough one. Face your feelings.
But that's probably the big. That should have been first.
Yeah.
That's the big. But the main thing. But why they say lean on others is because you go expose yourself.
That's
you
it.
admit you have a problem,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
You're willing to
get in a group.
Yes, you're willing to admit that. So face your feelings. It's actually going over it instead of like sleeping all the time or trying to cover up whatever you're going through. But here's one that's left out. Prioritize self-care.
Man, that's a big
self-care.
One. That's a big
No,
one.
people don't understand that even working out as a couple or a person will help you on a scientific level. Meaning the way your brain responds, the way your body feels, the way you release those natural endorphins in your body that helps motivate you to get up or helps motivate you to, like, I know that if I don't work out in 4 days in a row, I'm a jerk.
And other people are going to feel it, right? So self-care is look, I can't try to love you if I don't love myself. If I'm not in a good place, you're going to feel it.
But that goes along with addressing trauma before you get into a relationship.
And releasing endorphins. If you don't have sex in a week.
Oh, yeah. So it's the same thing.
The endorphins
if you don't have sex in a week, then look, we're a jerk.
I can feel it in my body.
Listen.
Nick, we got a new invention.
Oh, yeah, we do got a new invention. We're going to talk about it. All right, the last one is be patient. Patience is key. Rome wasn't built in a night. I know we talked about that. And we didn't become adults overnight.
That's right.
You know what I love? The grandparents that say, man, we've been married 60 years. You know what it is? It ain't that they had a great 60 years. They done been through it all.
Man, they got a great today. They have a great day today.
A guy hit me with this. He's been married for 60 years with his wife, right, Mr. Mays? And I said, Mr. Mays, I said, what's the key? You got to just give me one tip. And I'm looking for like a logic answer, right?
Yeah.
And he says, Jesus.
Really?
He said, Jesus is the only way me and my wife have made it to this.
Look
this
at
far.
that,
man. He didn't give me like, I just listened to my wife.
You know why they live so peaceful
happy.
after 60? They like, look, we done been together through it all.
Yeah, ain't no point in leaving.
Yeah.
And for those who leave at 60, you're an idiot.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. You guys have a good week. Trust the process. Don't rush the process.
Let's go.